What a cool place this is. What a really cool place. So let me ask you this, because when you started talking about that, like you remove a plant and they become more drought hardy and all that, all of a sudden it brought back memories of the conversation we had earlier about evolution. And can you just kind of ration that out for me and how
Oof.
they're different? I know. I've stepped in it
Okay, I gotta
now.
say something. I gotta say
Exerts.
something. So
Yeah.
I gotta say something. Okay, so real quick. So what he's explaining is epigenetics. Now these are terms that man is using because we don't understand how the genome works. So the fact of the matter is that the DNA already has what we would call, in our simplistic engineering terms, is a triple or quadruple redundant system, such as when an aircraft has a computer system and has a backup system if the first system fails.
Sure,
Well,
sure.
DNA does that 4 times over. So it actually absolutely annihilates evolution because the system already has to have not only one functioning system, it has to have backup functioning systems, which of course absolutely delete the proposal that a system could die and then gain a backup system. So it just literally annihilates evolution.
Maybe my question didn't get across. I guess I'm thinking like, if you take a plant, you move it to an area where it's more drought prone, and the
Excellent.
plant
Yes.
survives because it's now more drought
Yes.
hardy, then its
Yes.
offspring is also more drought hardy, and it goes
Right.
on in that path.
Right.
Maybe we're
Correct.
using the term evolution
No, no,
incorrectly,
no.
but
Let me help you out.
Yes.
Watch this.
No.
Hold on.
Can I
Hold
just
on.
quickly
Hold,
wait? Just the,
okay.
the
Okay.
word
I'll wait. Go ahead.
evolution needs to be changed with adaptation.
ah,
Right. Technically, that's true. So let me explain this. Here's the point. You already cinched the deal and proved us correct. It already had the ability to survive. So its children or babies or seedlings are also going to have the same abilities the parent plant already had. No adaptation, let alone evolution.
okay. Maybe I've been using the wrong term. So
No, you're
if
not.
a
Nope, you're not.
okay. So if a species slowly adapts over time
Nope. No, no, no,
to
no. That's what my
no,
point. There's no adaptation. It already has to have the ability. Here's the necessary
got it.
antecedent.
I
Watch.
understand what you're
Watch
saying
this.
now. I
Well, no,
got you.
watch this. Watch this. I'm going to make this even. I have to teach this to even creationists that disagree with evolution. They still believe in adaptation. Let me show you something. Okay, here's the question. You just have to ask anybody on Earth. Give me an example of anything ever that has adapted in nature, any form of biological adaptation in nature. So when someone gives you an example, okay, insert animal, fly, great. What's the adaptation? Okay, well, it's able to eat, insert anything. Well, great. Did the fly already have that ability? That's choice A. Choice B is no, it died. Pick one. Did it already have the ability, or B, did it die? Either
Got
way,
you.
watch this. A, it already had the ability. Great. That means no adaptation. B, it died. Definitely no adaptation. Both answers destroy adaptation. There's no way anything can adapt. If it doesn't, isn't that nice? If it doesn't already have a fully functioning ability to survive, it dies, completely annihilating adaptation, let alone evolution.
I think I understand you now. So you're saying that even though, like, so a plant may move to a more drought hardy place, it's not actually changing, it's just accessing a code that allows it to survive that is already predestined and coded. And that goes
Well,
back
that's
to
the thing is
creation.
that I don't even. Well, that's the thing is I'd never even have to use the word code or DNA. I can just say, little Billy and Sally, did that plant already have the ability to survive or not? It's that simple because if it did, it's still here. B, it didn't, it's dead. Both ways are not going to help adaptation, let alone evolution. So no matter what happens, there's no such thing as adaptation. Such as if I move to a different climate, Geo, if I don't have the ability to survive there, I have to move again. So I have to already move to where I can survive. Polar bears are successful because they're already white. They didn't die, then become white and be able to
Hmm.
survive. So literally the concept is the exact opposite of everything we experience in
Well,
reality.
let
And
me
it gets
piggyback on that.
worse. Go ahead.
So just to piggyback on that, like, so the plant moves to a drought exposed place, and it becomes more drought hardy. And any plants that were not able to do that, that didn't have that, they died. And so now the plants are able
Yep.
to expand and continue living, and
Correct.
they pass that on to their offspring. So basically, the ones that weren't able to survive die off, and the ones that are able to survive continue. And
Right.
as that movement progresses, does that not lead into evolution talk, or is
No,
that
it can't.
also at it?
It
Okay.
absolutely cannot, because that's the fact. It already has the ability. So by necessary antecedent, evolution's gone. In fact, there's no adaptation. Here's the deal. Are we talking about plants being moved in pots? Because I can move my plants inside and out of my house. If I leave my plant outside in the winter, it's going to die. If I forget to move my plants in, the plant's not going to make it. So literally, if we are literally moving plants, it's the same thing. The plant has to be an environment that it has to survive in. I have to make modifications. If we're talking
I
about a
think I get it
seedling,
now.
right? So
I
if we're
get it.
talking about a seedling, let's imagine a seedling going to a different island. Okay, I'm on island A, island B. So a bird carries the seed to island B. The plant is either already going to be able to survive, and if it does, that means that plant's going to make more seeds because it already had the ability to survive. So guaranteed it's going to continue to make not only life, it's going to make the exact same life because it's already guaranteed by the gene pool that survived. The
Yes.
gene pool never has new information added to it. So if I move anywhere, it's the same thing. I have to already have the ability. And if I survive and make children, those children exist because his or her parents already had the ability to survive. No adaptation.
That's perfect. That's a great way to describe it too. It actually reminds me of the story that I heard of like it brought in global warming and all that, but it basically said that there were Alaskan brown bears and northern polar bears, and that they
Sure.
started to like interbreed, and what ended up
Yep.
what ended up being created was this abomination that its claws and its head were too big to dig into the snow, and it also was too white and maladapted to warmer climate living to be like the
Malfit.
brown
Yep.
bears, and so it just like died off immediately, and it keeps trying to
Right.
happen. It keeps just dying off.
Exactly. It's malfit. Just like if I put a chihuahua in the forest, it's not going to last probably 3 or 4 nights. It's at the end of
Yeah.
the gene pool. Even though it's 100% wolf, it doesn't look like a wolf anymore, and it certainly can't survive like a wolf, even though it literally is by speciation. Even that's another problem. There's no such thing as species either, because a species would require a speciation event. Now, that's a terminological issue. We say words that mean things that we think they mean something else. That's down the line, but that's the point, is that the same creature can even look very different in its no evolution. Isn't that crazy?
Wild. I'm just so processing. I'm gonna go off mic for a second and just process.
I'm not sure if Exo already covered this, but the idea that we've been sold this adaptation of a fish that climbed out of the water, and then 5 or 10 generations later, its kids can breathe air. That slow adaptation of generation to generation it's completely flawed, because the
Insanity.
first fish that goes out water would die, and the second fish that goes out of water will die, and the 10,000th fish that climbs out of water
Exactly.
or got kicked out of water would die, and there would never be the next generation
Correct.
that had a part air, part water lung system, and then after so many generations become a lung that can breathe oxygen. That slow adaptation is it's completely
Yeah.
fallacious. Whereas the adaptation, when we talk about it, is that it's already in the organism. So that one parent has the ability to adapt. And like Exo said, all of its children have that same ability to adapt in its own situation.
Well,
If that
acclimate.
environment
Acclimate would be
is
the correct
out,
term.
sorry?
Well, the correct term is acclimate, but it cannot adapt. It has to already have the ability. So biologically, it's acclimation.
Okay, great. Good correction. Thanks. And if you go outside of that acclimation zone, you will die, and you will not be able to pass on genetics.
That's right.
So there's like a band of tolerance as to where, same way that you put a father in a place with a lot of sun, and his skin will start to darken, and then potentially, if he's exposed to sunlight enough, his skin will go very dark, but he'll still have a light child, because the child hasn't been exposed to those environmental causes yet that cause the reaction in the body. But it's not the slow, gradual generation by generation. It's the creature right there has the potential for all adaptation already designed into it from a genetic perspective, And then the word epi means above, like epitome. Epi is above genetics. So if
Oh,
all of the genetics have all of this pre-existing information, and you have something above that, even steering that, it's so incredibly designed.
now
I
I
have
feel
to
like
say
we've
something
gone.
real quick.
Go ahead.
I have to
Sorry.
say something real quick just so you continue to process for 20 seconds. I'll watch this. Now, on top of what he's saying, here's the point. What the liars will tell us is that it takes a long time and it takes thousands of generations. What he's explaining is that that's not true. It takes one generation to prove and disprove all of this. One generation is when the creature is going to either have the ability to survive or not. And that leads to the term natural selection. Of course, it's a misused term. They have perverted it. Natural selection is real, and some people will argue with me, but I'll give into the term so I can help explain it to people that believe it. Natural selection selects from what already exists. It's not called natural addition. It's called natural selection. That means from this board right here, our genetics, we have an Exo and a Roger and a Day and a Doe and a Flat Earth Dude and 24/7 Live Discord, Geomancer, Bio, Globus. That is it. That's as far as the gene pool goes. It's not going to naturally add to the gene pool. It's going to select from all of us. If I die and the rest of the people here survive, that's what naturally has been selected for a bad example. And that's who's going to go forward to continue to bring forth offspring, right? If that was the issue. So there's no such thing as evolution. Even natural selection disproves evolution.
Yeah, you guys are answering a lot of these questions that I've had for a while. I remember I talked to a Bible study person and I was maybe 14 or so. I was so just like anti listening to anything he said. I don't think I processed any of the information, but now at 26, I'm really able to take this on. So I have one more question, elementary, of course. How do you guys explain like what I've heard as like vestigial limbs, like in the seal, it shows that it used to have
Oh my
feet
goodness.
and all that.
Well, that's the thing is that I don't have to explain that because there's no such thing. But even let's say it's true and I have things in me that I don't need anymore, that's the opposite of evolution. Evolution requires gaining new additions, and that would be losing something. So that would be a problem for the person that thinks that's evidence for gaining, and it would show that that person has some sort of mental detachment from reality. Thanks.
Okay, that summed it up really quickly.